welcome back to another devotion. We're going to be reading from our book, Raised Devotionals by Miss Ida Mae Couch. And today's topic is kind of intriguing. I'm excited to kind of hear what this is about, but it's called Southern Snow. And a lot of people are surprised that here down in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, on rare occasions, we do get snow. So let's just read and see what this is about and just see how the Lord is going to minister to us through southern snow. So let's just get started. Southern snow. Yes, snow was a rare event in the South. When snow was predicted, it was a race to the grocery store to stock up on milk and bread. Still is. So true. There was no equipment available to clear the roads, so if it was a big snow, you may be stuck at home for several days. I remember a particularly bad snowstorm. It was Sunday morning, and it was decided we needed to at least try to get to worship. We were the ones in charge of getting the doors open and the heat turned on at the church building. The roads were covered where we lived out away from town, but thought it might be different in town. Dad was concerned folks would be making their way to the church building despite the bad roads. My sister and I put on layers and layers of stockings, socks, turtlenecks, and sweaters. On this particular day, pants would be allowed. Pants for the girls going to worship were frowned on at this particular time in history. We wrapped scarves around our necks and even layered gloves and mittens. It was probably the closest thing to a blizzard I had ever known. It was extremely cold and the snow piled up into big snowdrifts that were probably 4 or 5 feet tall in places. I remember moving at a snail's pace down the highway as Dad tried to drive through the snow. It was nearly impossible to tell where the road was and where the ditches were because the snow made it all look level. I don't think we got even half a mile down the road before Dad decided we need to turn around and go back home. It was not safe to be out. My dad had a deep sense of responsibility to our congregation. He wanted to make sure all was ready for anyone who came to worship that day. It was that important to him because God was that important. And our scripture comes from Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24 and 25, and I will be reading from the King James Bible. So here it is. Chapter 10, verse 24. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works. 25. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching. Wow. It's almost like just living, it's like, was she from here? I know she was from Arkansas, but down here in the South, when we hear of sleet and snow, I'm telling you, stuff shuts down. It shuts down around here, and it's like everybody does rush out when they hear there's going to be sleet or snow, bad weather, whatever. Milk and bread. What is it about milk and bread? But those are the things that people tend to go get. But we're just not equipped for it down here in the South. We just don't get that now. We get hurricanes and tornadoes and thunderstorms and all of that kind of stuff, and heat indexes out the wazoo. But when you talk about snowstorm, it is just foreign to us because we just don't get it. But it's a very rare occasion that we get it. But I love how her dad was so committed to the Lord, and he tried his best. But you know, the fact that he tried but wasn't able to actually get there, the Lord does give us common sense, folks. I mean, in all things, he gives us common sense, and we just have to do the best we can in the circumstances and situations that we're put in. I mean, he tried, but you know, the Lord, thank goodness, give him wisdom and knowledge to know, look, this is probably not the best thing for your safety, for yourself and your family. And so he had, you know, the wisdom to turn around and go back home and get off the roads. And I thank God for that. You know, that is just one of those little times that it pays. It pays to have that relationship with the Lord so that we can hear him when he is communicating and telling us, you know what, this is not something you need to do. You probably need to turn around. This is not an area you need to go into. You probably need to turn around. You know, he will talk to us and guide us and direct us, but it starts with having that open communication, that relationship with him. I know I sound like a broken record, but y'all, it is so important, and I just can't get it through enough. It doesn't matter, and y'all hear me out before y'all just automatically shut me off for what I'm about to say, but it doesn't matter how many church services you go to. It doesn't matter what church you attend. It doesn't matter, you know, the lifestyle you present. If you don't have a true relationship with God, none of that matters. None of that is going to matter. Okay? It's not. I'm telling you, I grew up where the focus was put on where you went to church, who's seen you at church, and what you look like. Nobody cared about what was going on in that inner man. Nobody cared how you were, you know, how you felt and your thoughts and actions in private. Nobody cared. It was all about that outward appearance. And that's why I don't care if you are at the church every time the doors are open and you sit front and center and you shake the preacher's hands and you give the offering and you do this. If you don't have a relationship with God, none of that matters. None of it matters. But if you have a true relationship with God and you let him be Lord of your life and you give him complete control and you submit to him and let him direct your path, that's what's going to be what saves you in the end. And I say you, but I'm talking about myself, you know. I'm not saying that going to church and all that is not important. I'm not saying that at all. But if that's all you're doing, but you don't talk to him, you don't have a relationship with him, you don't submit to him, you don't let him convict you and you lay down those convictions, or you don't let him convict you and you pick up some things that you've maybe not, and I'm talking about maybe you don't get in your word and he's convicted you of that, so you don't pick up your word and you get into it and you don't have a daily prayer life with him, none of this other stuff is going to matter. You can look the part. You can be at the church every time the doors are open. But if you don't have a relationship with him, none of that is going to save you. None of that. We have got to have a relationship with God. And when you get your own relationship with God, yours, and yours alone, nobody else's, and you let him be Lord of your life, and you submit fully to him, then he is going to talk to you. And he is going to communicate with you in ways that he communicates with you. You'll learn the way he communicates with you. And he is going to get rid of the things in you that's not pleasing to him. And he's going to replace it with things that is pleasing to him. And he is going to create you to be the person that he knew you to be, that he wants you to be, that he designed you to be. But it all starts with a relationship. You've got to have a relationship. And that's been the process that's been taking me through my life. I mean, I know the words to say to the right people. I know how to dress for the right people. I know how to act around the right people, quote unquote. That they would think that I was just this perfect little Christian girl. But it wouldn't be real. And I've done that. I've lived that fake life. I've lived that life. And I realized that wasn't how I wanted to be. And I allowed the Lord to take over and to put the things in me that he wants in me and to rid me of the things that are going to hold me back. And he does it, and it's a process, and it's a long process because we are so imperfect and we are so full of junk and gunk. And a lot of us are full of stuff that, you know, that have followed us from childhood, that he has to really work on us and get rid of some things. He had to work on my mind and get some of the ways that I was taught and raised completely out of my mind and rework me so that I could get to where he could really, really do in me what he wanted. And it's a process, but it's so worth it when we allow him to take complete control. Because when we allow him to be Lord of our life and take complete control, he works all the other mess out, And he will go before you. He will direct your path. He will open doors that no man can open. And he will just be there every step of the way, guiding and directing you. And when you're in his will, there is nothing else like it. And it is just amazing that when you are in the will of God, how things around your life just fall into place. It just literally falls into place. And it's always perfect. And he pays attention to every single detail. He pays attention to things that we wouldn't even probably think about. But he pays attention to all of the little details. He's so good like that, y'all. I just love him so much. Whew. He's a great God. And I know that I don't ever want to be without him. I don't ever want to be out from under his will and out from under the protection of his love and grace and mercy. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you here in the next one. Bye, y'all.